We're surrounded by stories our entire lives, right? From bedtime stories when we were kids to the blockbuster movies we stream today. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's inside those stories? Well, that's what we're digging into today, the moral of the story. And let's start with a big question. I mean, seriously, why is it so much easier to remember a story than, say, a list of rules? Think about it. Which one sticks in your brain better? A memo about the importance of honesty or the story of the boy who cried wolf? Yeah, it's not even a contest, right? Our brains are just wired for one of these, and we're about to find out why. Okay, so first things first, we gotta get this out of the way. Stories are way, way more than just entertainment. They're actually one of the most powerful teaching tools ever created. I mean, long before there were textbooks or schools as we know them, stories were basically our instruction manuals for life. They're how generations have passed down what it means to be a good person, how to be wise, how to be, well, human. You can almost think of them as these little packages of coded lessons, just waiting for us to unlock them. So, how in the world does a simple story pack such a powerful punch? It's not an accident, I'll tell you that. It's actually a pretty brilliant design, and we're about to take a look under the hood and see exactly how it works. All right, check this out. At first glance, this just looks like a simple little matching game from school, but it perfectly shows how our brains are constantly, automatically looking for the deeper meaning. On the left, you've got 5 quick story ideas. On the right, 5 big themes. I bet you can match these up in like 10 seconds. Go on, give it a shot. So, how'd you do? Pretty easy, right? The girl who loses the race but stops to help someone who fell. Of course, that's helping others matters more than winning. And the 2 brothers who fight but then make up. That's a perfect picture of friendship grows through forgiveness. See that? The action of the story is the vehicle that delivers the lesson. And that's the absolute key right there. The theme or the moral isn't just some extra thing tacked on at the end. The entire story, every character, every twist and turn in the plot, it's all built from the ground up to deliver that one central lesson. It's the whole point, the story's entire reason for existing. But why does this work so well? What is it about this method that just clicks with our brains? Well, it's because a good moral in a story works kind of like a seed. Let's dig into how that little seed can grow into real, actual wisdom. Just let that sink in for a second. A story becomes a seed. It's not just a piece of data you file away. It's a living idea that gets planted in your mind. See, a list of rules can tell you, be brave, but a story shows you what bravery looks like in action. And that's what makes all the difference. That's what makes it stick. And the amazing thing about that seed is that you don't have to consciously water it every day. It just grows quietly. You might hear a story when you're a kid and completely forget about it, but then years down the road, you're faced with a tough decision, and boom, the lesson from that story pops into your head right when your heart is ready to hear it. And hey, fun fact, this whole idea of planting seeds of truth is anything but new. It's actually a super ancient practice. For thousands of years, Jewish teachers have used something called a mishal, which is just a short story, a parable, or a proverb, to pass on wisdom. They figured out a long, long time ago exactly how our minds are wired to learn. And that brings us right back to where we started. A list of rules. It's abstract, it's cold, it's so easy to forget. But a story, a mashal, it connects with you on a human emotional level. We see ourselves in the characters, we feel what they feel, and because of that connection, the lesson becomes a part of us. It becomes totally unforgettable. And really, this gets to the absolute core of it. The whole point of all these stories, all these mashals, is to help us follow this one ancient piece of advice. Get wisdom. Not just collecting facts and information, but getting true understanding that we can actually use in our own lives. Okay, so it's been really cool to see how stories work on a technical level. But let's be honest, the most important part of all of this is how it applies to the story that matters most, your story. Just think about it for a second. The last time you had a really tough choice to make, what did you do? Did you pull up a mental spreadsheet of pros and cons? Maybe, but probably not. It's way more likely that you thought of a story, maybe about a hero from a movie who showed courage, or a time a friend chose to be honest when it was hard. Those stories, they become our internal compass. And that leads us to maybe the most powerful idea of all. You're not just a listener of stories, you are the author of one. Every single choice you make, every action you take, it's like you're writing another sentence in the story of your life. So the real challenge for all of us is to make sure the moral of our own story is one worth remembering.
This kind of flips the whole idea of education upside down, doesn't it? Maybe the point isn't just to fill our heads with knowledge, but to use that knowledge to intentionally and consciously shape the moral of our own life story.
When you boil it all down, this whole philosophy rests on a few simple truths. That just being smart isn't enough if you end up making bad choices. That real education has to have a moral compass to guide it. And that focusing on wisdom, on the theme of your life, that's the real path to finding peace. So we'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. The story of your life is being written right now, today, with every single choice you make. So the only question left is, what will its moral be?